do you got, Ed? What do you got going?
I got my
beer.
I got my pen and my water.
Perfect. You're ready to go, right?
My H2O. Let's go.
Let's go. Welcome back to Punch Drunk Nerd, the podcast where three friends, three amigos, three bambinos come together, talk about nerd shit. And this week, this is the biggest movie of the summer, Deadpool and Wolverine. It is so big. It is so huge. We've had a special guest with us. But before we bring him in, my name is Luis Gonzalez, and with me is...
Deadpool.
And my special guest, some call him Benny, some call him Benjamin. But I like to call him Mr. Ben Watts. Ben, welcome to the podcast.
Wow, what an introduction. Thank you very much. Wow, first time being here, also first time listening. I hope you're not offended.
Not offended at all. I love it. We're going to have a fresh take on the pod, fresh energy. You know what I mean? Ooh, yeah. Go to youtube.com/@punchdrunknerd and look at Ben's beautiful face here, okay? He's ready to go. He's ready to rock. Now, Ben was able to bring me to an exclusive preview of Deadpool Wolverine, and thank God, because Comic-Con was this past weekend, and I definitely wouldn't have seen it. So many spoilers. After the movie, I said to Miguel and Ed, I said, boys, you got to watch this immediately, okay? Because the spoilers are going to be like crazy. But listen, before we talk about Deadpool and Wolverine, some other big news happened that I want to cover.
So much
At Comic-Con, some huge Marvel Hall H news. And Ben, you were there, right?
I was definitely there. You know, that's kind of our yearly pilgrimage.
Yeah.
So we head down there to San Diego. Love San Diego. And yes, the news was plentiful on the Marvel side.
Ben's able to get some special access to it because he's part of IGN like me. He's part of the social team, so he gets to get all those sweet, sweet, exclusive inside looks. Listen, we know the news. I think the biggest news right now is what? Robert Downey Jr. is back, and he's Dr. Doom. Before we talk about our critiques and our thoughts and things like that, Ben, what was it like inside the hall when it all happened?
Well, look, I'm not gonna lie to you. I didn't make it inside the hall this time.
Oh, okay.
I know. It's my favorite place to be, but there was news to cover back in the war room. But what we did get to do after the news was released is we ran out into the street and we got the reactions from people who were in the room.
I did see that, yeah.
Nice.
And you know, the reaction to the news was mixed, but the actual energy of the room was clearly palpable. The people that had walked out were like, people were cheering RDJ. The excitement of seeing Iron Man himself on stage in Hall H is honestly a sight to behold. We're setting aside the issues of putting him back into the MCU. The actual energy and the vibe, people lost their mind just from the actual seeing him on stage.
I'm sure it's going to be pretty contagious. I mean, again, we'll get into it, but I mean, it's hard not to have like a goofy ass grin on your face, even watching it on your phone. You know what I mean? It's just like RDJ is just that kind of character. He carries that much kind of heft in his stardom. People, you know, and it is a big deal for him to be back for so many reasons. But yeah, I got to imagine. You know, over here in Texas, everybody was talking about it. Like, I had my baby shower the next day, and two people who I hadn't seen in years, you know, came, and the first thing they were just like, so what do you think about RDJ coming back to the MCU? I was like, let's talk. Forget about the kid. Anyway, sorry to interrupt, but yeah.
Okay, Ed, I'm actually really fascinated because these two people who are like not in the industry, they're in Texas, like they're farly removed from like where maybe me and Ben are in, and even you in this podcast. Like, what did they initially think about that news? Were they into it? Were they not?
They, I think, mostly skeptical. I think it's just like, you know, I think the same reaction that a lot of us have who have been keeping up with the MCU the last few, you know, since its beginning, really. But I'll say this: it was never overwhelmingly positive. Everybody like rolled their eyes for the most part.
I mean, your lizard brain has to go off when you see that happen in the room and Robert Downey Jr. is just there. You're just like, before thoughts or anything comes up, you're just like, holy shit, this is crazy. And the way he reveals it too is just he's very theatrical. He can just bring so much charisma to a room just by entering it and the way he revealed it.
Yeah, with the Russo brothers, no less. I mean,
yeah,
which we'll get into as well, but that's equally a big deal, at least for the MCU.
Now,
we're talking about the outside career of the MCU.
Now we're talking about how people are like a little skeptical, and maybe I'm part of that camp as well. But Ben, when you came back into our little war room, you're like, all right, Robert Downey Jr., everybody's excited. So it seemed like you were more on the positive end. And I just wanted to get your perspective on, like, you know, your thoughts on Robert Downey Jr.'s return.
Well, you know, I love loving things. So that's the first thing. I prefer to stay on the positive of everything.
Absolutely.
Yes. I have no control here. I don't get to choose who gets to play Dr. Doom. So I might as well be on board for what is going to happen. So, I mean, when the news comes out, first you're obviously we're shocked. It's RDJ. He's back. But, you know, he had the perfect send-off, you know, that self-sacrifice.
Yeah.
But before we even get into like the Deadpool, the Wolverine, all the things that have been laid out over the last only week, because before that, Phase 4 really delivered very little in terms of like what is going on in the multiverse saga. So initially, it's full of excitement and just trying to put the puzzle pieces together. Why is he back? How is this going to work? It seems that there's been no path laid out for this to actually happen. And so then you get to those places where it's ringing like desperation, you know? It's like, why bring him back after he had such a great finish? And then we find out the business elements of it all, you know, from how much he's, you know, reportedly getting paid, that he would not come back unless the Russos came back. So it's like, it's so multi-layered. I've definitely come to terms with it, and I'm so curious.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say I'm on board, but I'm definitely, my curiosity is there. And since I am not an executive at Marvel, I do not get to pick and choose who I want. So I'm just trying to be on board and try to have fun with it the best I can.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. I think that the thing is like, out of anybody in the MCU, Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man. When you Google Iron Man or Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr. pops up. You know, he is just one-to-one. And so that's why it makes it so difficult for me to see him like as Dr. Doom. There's talks of like, for me, if I never see his face and they modulate his voice, I'm like, okay, that's fine. But then other people are like, well, why spend over $80 million to bring him back if we're not going to see his face, kind of situation?
Put his acting to the test. They just said he's the greatest actor of all time, you know?
I know.
Tom Hardy the shit out of it, you know?
Get a weird voice going on.
Get
you know what I mean?
Weird fucking voice. I mean,
make it squeaky.
Robert do the opposite of like the Robert Downey Jr. voice, you know, which is usually kind of low and mumbly. Like here's the thing, and this is why I can't get like overly upset about it, and you know, God knows I just don't have the energy anymore about Marvel stuff. But I will say, like, I'm not and I'm not saying I don't like them or the idea of them. I'm not the biggest Fantastic Four fan. Therefore, I'm not very acquainted with Doctor Doom. I haven't even seen the old movies from the early 2000s, or I saw the remake and like burned it from my mind in the 20-teens. But I have no expectations on this character. I don't know how he's supposed to be portrayed. More recently, I only just realized that he is a big deal in the grand scheme of Marvel. Like, he is like one of the top bad guys.
When they're talking about Secret Wars, like Doctor Doom is basically a god. Like, he is running the show. He is the thing. So to me, it makes sense. But yeah, I understand. Like, you know, you haven't heard of him, but he is very important. Yeah.
So, but to your point, Luis, it is that almost contradiction of roles where, Iron Man and Robert Downey Jr. are like one, you know, and they are the most iconic character of the MCU within the film franchises, I would say. Like, you know, you point to Robert Downey Jr., yes, he is Iron Man kind of thing. And I'm not like, you have those other staple superheroes, of course.
Yeah.
But obviously he was the one who started it all. It was a big deal, and people keep harkening back to that. Like, he was the one who kicked it off. And if that hadn't been successful, we wouldn't be here today. So, and now putting him, like you said, behind a mask, or which would be interesting if they did go that route. I would actually be more excited if we never got to see him. I don't want to see an origin story kind of thing. Let's see him already as Doom. But they also have like a lot of exposition to take care of.
Well, they did it with Thanos. Like Thanos came in. I mean, of course, they like laid the seeds for Thanos a little bit, but you kind of jumped in Infinity War with a lot of information. He was hunting for stones, but you didn't really know what his end game was. But like, I think they're able to find a way to put him in.
I'm sure there are ways. It is just the feeling that the MCU is so disjointed. Or feels as much, and a lot of characters who people just aren't keeping up with. Whereas the Avengers, we had 3 or 4 focal points right from the get-go.
Right.
And it felt earned.
The multiple Avenger movies kind of acted like a spine for that whole Infinity Saga. With
you're telling me in the first Avengers reunion, or however you want to call it, the main Avenger is now already the bad guy.
Right.
And we've had a lot of content between then and now, and we're going to have a lot more until we actually get to the Avengers movie, but that's a lot to keep up with for the average viewer.
I think we'll just have to see. I feel like Doctor Doom, there's so much history, so much lore with him that like the potential for him was there was so much potential. And now when it's Robert Downey Jr., people are saying like, oh, is he like a Tony Stark that went bad? But they said that this was the next Victor Von Doom. Is there some sort of like mirror effect where like they both deal with technology, but Doctor Doom is magic as well? So maybe the path that Tony Stark takes, Doctor Doom takes another take. So there's like some sort of like mirroring that's happening, which could be very clever, but also, it kind of cuts out all this other like maybe potential Doctor Doom stuff that we have. And like people have been waiting for a good Doctor Doom. And, like again, if anyone's going to, knock it out of the park, the Russo brothers, Robert Downey Jr. is a great actor. So we'll wait and see. I am skeptical as well. We could have done some other Doom stories, but it seems like they have a very semi-clear path of where they're going. I don't know. So, Ben, any last kind of thoughts about RDJ as Dr. Doom?
There are no last thoughts. There's only more thoughts. There's just constantly more thoughts. Like, because there is no like real like Dr. Doom without the Fantastic Four, which is next year. So is RDJ? I'm going to say he has to be in Fantastic Four. Whether it is, an end credit scene, which I think would be a little bit of a disappointment, but they're also, they're working on, they've got the Silver Surfer in there. They got Galactus. That's a lot of things to handle. Plus, that's also, that's in a alternate reality as well of a futuristic 60s. So I mean, you cannot bring RDJ back and not address the fact that he's Iron Man. I think they know that. The audience will absolutely know that. So they have to address it, and it has to be given some sort of reasonable, cathartic explanation. Otherwise, people will just be like, I think they're already, from phase 4, you've seen people start to switch off. It's just been a bit too much.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're getting that turnaround for the Avengers movie pretty quick.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like they want to get to Secret Wars real quick to kind of wrap up the multiverse of it all.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
Yeah,
it's almost a shame. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's almost a shame that Deadpool and Wolverine just came out, because God knows they could have made a wonderful joke about it in here.
Oh, yes, I see what you're saying.
We'll talk about it more later, but like, if anything, all of this news makes that movie better, just like on so many levels. But we'll get into that later.
We gotta have. I mean, especially with this announcement, they gotta plug him in like Fantastic Four. They just have to. Like we have to start putting all the little seeds down, and it's not unlike them to just like there's just to start adding extra scenes down the line. You know what I mean? Marvel notoriously is known to like add scenes at the last minute, so definitely gonna be a thing. Russo Brothers are back, reported to make $80 million to bring them on board. I'm excited. I think my favorite Marvel movies are Russo Brother movies. So
yeah,
Ben, I was telling these boyos a couple weeks ago, like it's crazy how when they left Marvel, all of the Russo Brothers movies weren't really that great. You know, I don't know if you felt that way, but it's just like I went in after Endgame being like, oh my God, I'm a Russo brother like stan. I'm ready to watch every single thing that they do. And then when they did, I was like, oh, I don't know if it's as good as his other ones.
They found their niche.
Either way, I'm excited to kind of see the return.
That might not be their fault. You know, I feel like every studio was prepared to throw a hell of a lot of money at them. Like Netflix threw, what, 250 on the Gray Man?
Yeah.
And it didn't show, you know.
No.
So, and I enjoy what I can out of the Gray Man, but it's definitely a flawed film. So yeah, it'll be interesting. Maybe this is just what they're destined for. You know, just MCU movies until they're 90.
Yeah, they work really well in that ecosystem. So it just makes sense. And clearly they were like, we're done. And they're like, maybe we're not done.
After Endgame, after Endgame, they deserved it, you know.
Yeah.
So what? It took 5 years for them to get in.
Almost not even. It's so quick.
Yeah.
Everybody was like that. RDJ, Chris Evans were like, we're done. And then it's like, well, for the right time. And
all right, go on.
Technically, we're not back for those roles.
Yeah.
Another big thing that happened at Hall H was the Fantastic Four. They revealed first footage. Obviously, we weren't in the room when it happened, but I did see some of the leaked, what's it called, videos of it, and I was surprised because they said that they were going to start filming this past Tuesday, but then watching the footage, I'm like, oh, it looks like you guys already filmed things.
Could it just be promo? Like they did it just for Hall H?
Just for Hall H. They could, but I could see it integrated into... Ben, did you see any of this like leaked footage of the Fantastic Four stuff?
No, but I did. I spoke to a lot of people that did see it, and I was like, they haven't begun filming. So what did you see?
Yeah,
they're like, it was footage. It was like he's teaching. Reed Richards is teaching he's doing his Bill Nye thing. And then they like shoot off into space, and I was like, and the things on a dating show. And I'm like, what fucking fever dream are you talking about?
Yeah,
because they haven't begun production. I'm like, no, it looks like it's there.
It looks like it's in production. Yeah,
right. So whether or not that was purely like some test shooting they did early to kind of get the vibe of the film, use that to communicate to production or something like that. Which is, not something that is, it's not something that's, I don't know what I'm trying to say. People do it. People do it. Productions do it. So that feels like they just showed off basically their, video lookbook of what the film vibe and tone will be.
Especially because Fantastic Four is so important. It's like, we don't want to fuck this up. Let's do like a quick pilot-ish like set of clips to like set the tone, like you said, and from what I saw on the leak, it seemed better than I expected. I kind of had, I was a little skeptical because it's such a fast turnaround. Like they're filming this past Tuesday and it comes out literally in a year. But I was like, all right, let's do it. I'm semi excited for it. So,
I'm not that I'm trying to call you out. No. But Luis, I feel like leading up to the news on RDJ and then the Fantastic Four too. Yeah, you seemed a little down on it.
On the Fantastic Four?
Yeah, when you were texting me and Miguel,
I said I was down on it.
You were a little worried.
I was down on it before I saw the leaked footage because I thought, how can you, make or do the VFX for this big movie that everyone's been waiting for? There are a few movies that everyone is like, it needs to be perfect. Fantastic Four, X-Men, Doctor Doom, like these are things that people and Blade, people want this to be immaculate. Yeah. And to have it such a fast turnaround and in a year got me worried because I'm used to like movies taking, 2 years, like in development. Let's get the VFX. It's a science movie, and as everyone's been complaining about all the visual effects of like Marvel, you think that they take a time to like, okay, let's take a step. Let's really work this VFX to look good for such a sci-fi like property. But then I saw some of the content like from the teaser, the show look or whatever, and I liked how some of the stuff did look pretty grounded. But then again, we'll see how that like kind of translates into the actual movie. So for now, I'm okay. I'm a little bit more excited after seeing that teaser, so we'll see. I was excited about Ant-Man after I saw that teaser in Comic-Con as well, but let's look everything turned out then.
I mean, we all were,
Yeah.
to be fair.
Listen, let's not talk about what's going to happen in the future. Let's talk about what happened in the past just recently. Let's talk about Deadpool and Wolverine. All right. Ed, I know Ben's thoughts on Deadpool and Wolverine, but I don't know what your thoughts on Deadpool and Wolverine is. Can you enlighten me?
Oh boy, yeah.
I hated it. He says,
genuinely. No, I'm like a mid-level Deadpool fan. I wasn't like a big fan of him before the movie the movies started, and I only just caught up on 1 and 2, or I saw the second one for the first time. And I'll be honest, I think they're both interchangeable. They're just like the same movie. For
1
me.
and 2, right?
Yeah, and they're just okay. I do think Deadpool and Wolverine was really good, and is probably the best of the trilogy, which is such a rare thing. That might just be my thoughts. But no, I thought it was at first it started feeling on par with what we had seen, but once they get going with the Wolverine plotline, like once he enters the picture officially, and we'll get into spoilers, by the way, if we didn't say that already. But yes, I had a really good time. I went by myself at 9:00 on a Friday, which I never do, because I thought it would be with a good crowd.
Right.
And I was so glad I did. It was a great crowd. No fights broke out in the back or anything. But it was like, good audience, good laughter, good reactions, at the right moments. And like the theater was kind of buzzing as I came out. And it seems, for the most part, a lot of people felt the same. So what about you guys?
Ben, what did you think about Deadpool Wolverine? We went together.
You came in so positive about Robert Downey Jr. I'm only expecting a gushing review right now.
Well, yeah, because there's no doubt there is so much fun to be had with the film, and I would say I'd probably be above you in the regards to the original Deadpool films. Like, I really did enjoy them, but they're definitely not my favorite of like MCU editions, although they were Fox, so
right.
A bit of that. But the anticipation of this film and what it felt like the film was bound to deliver. The hype was there. It was tangible. It felt palpable. Like I could taste it. And then seeing the film, I walked down and was like, that is so much fun.
Yeah.
And yet the more I think of it, the less I feel like it really adds anything to, the MCU. It is, again, it is in line with the other two Deadpool films. Like, it feels like it is a standalone in many ways. It does add some terminology that I think is going to be important going forward. We're good with spoilers, right?
Yes, we can talk about
anything out.
Yeah, blur anything out.
Like the dick jokes or what terminology?
Yeah, those dick jokes are going to be
very
huge,
important.
especially when it comes to Mr. Fantastic and the Fantastic Four. I mean.
You mean the fucking Fantastic Four?
No, but it's the terminology of anchor being, which is kind of my running theory of why RDJ might come back. The fact that now it seems to be established that every single timeline there's a single individual that if they die, which seems to be if they die of self-sacrifice in a way,
right, then
the rest of their timeline is destined to be doomed in a way. But there's a lot of plot points at the beginning that I was like, oh, this is really cool. And then they didn't really go anywhere. But in saying that, it's really funny. And the payoffs of the I was very lucky that I got to speak to some of the talent from the film and some of the producers as a part of my job. And they don't like calling them cameos. They like calling them guest characters or guest appearances.
Yeah,
something like
okay, yeah.
Because they feel like cameo is too derogatory of a term, and
Yeah.
everybody they introduced has to have a specific story point. But I think there's one cameo that doesn't quite hit that beat. But
yeah,
Are you talking about Henry Cavill? Or like
yes,
the way-
I am. Cavill.
Well,
Because
I
he's
was
just-
gonna. No, go ahead.
Well, because Henry Cavill is just there. Like it's
Yeah.
it's just like
yeah.
it's just like, oh, okay, and he delivers a punch, and you're like, okay, see ya.
Yeah.
Everyone else at least has contribute something to the overall feel of the film. So, in saying that, I originally when I walked out, I was like, this is a 9 out of 10 film,
Yeah.
and I think I'm back more. I think I'm back on like an 8 or a 7.5. A lot of it's just driven by the pure enjoyment, but
Yeah.
I think it's got some gaping plot holes that I would like to find out or have explained to me by somebody.
I'd love to know too. It's funny because I found my way to watch it again, this movie. And I remember when I went out with Ben, I really loved it too. I said, I 8 or 9 out of 10. I love this, but I don't know if it's recency bias. I don't know if I'm just like, because of the hype of it all, I'm just like locked and glued in. And then after rewatching it, let me tell you, boys, I love this movie. Like, I think I love it more now than I did when I first saw it. I feel like this is a movie that I could just put on repeat in the background where like you can have requotable quotes. Like, remember back in the like 2000s when we watched movies over and over again and we were able to quote it just like incessantly? I feel like this is one of those. I was just writing down a bunch of quotes on this doc here, and there are so many funny ones. I know people talk about plot holes and all these things, but I got I think 3 or 4 things that I loved about this movie. One, I think the simplicity of the themes in the story is one thing. I want to matter. Between everybody in that cast, everyone has that thought. I want to matter. From obviously, Deadpool to Logan wanting to matter because he failed. From Paradox, he's feeling worthless. He's being, his only job is to take care of a dying universe, and it's going to take thousands of years. It's pretty much like, hey, you've been demoted to this shitty job. Now you're pretty worthless now. From Cassandra being disregarded and unimportant, she's thrown into the void. To the cameos, you know what I mean? Like they felt like they weren't seen at all. They were just thrown into the void. Like, do they matter? Are you important? And everybody was like, we need to have our legacy. We need to have our ending. And so the cameos come out. Logan is able to redeem himself. Wade Wilson's able to kind of find his way. Everyone is coming from an angle of like, I want to matter. And so to me, that carries it. And then following that up is like the performances from Hugh and even Ryan Reynolds. Like, there are moments when they're so vulnerable that I'm just like, you got me, buddy. You got me, bub. You know what I mean? I'm taken to it. I think that maybe to me, that theme of like, I want to matter is so palpable to me. Like, I think that's something I think about. That's something that I want to contribute to the world. And so when I see them feeling it, I'm like, oh yeah, like I understand that struggle of like, I don't want to be a what's it called? One trick pony all my life is what Deadpool says. I want to actually contribute something. And you do see them being affected by that vulnerably. You see it when Wolverine like makes fun of him and how he's hurt behind the mask. And then the other thing that I like about this movie is the pacing. I think, you are on a roller coaster. The pacing is great. By 18 minutes, we get into the plot right away. And there's so many times you watch movies, there's like 30 or 40 minutes. And it's like, Jesus, now we just got to the inciting incident, And so I love the pacing. I love how each, like, the actor is playing with the editing is playing with the film work is playing with the actor. Like, there's all of these things with the production of itself. And as a production person, I loved this movie. I think there are so many times that they play with each other. They have fun quotes, like Deadpool's like, oh, I don't want to die by a day player. You know what I mean? Like, and I understand what that means. And maybe this movie's like perfectly made for me because I'm in production. I've seen Marvel movies since, Blade and X-Men. And I just like how very self-aware it was. I guess, yeah. I mean, for me, I had a really good time. I know people talk about plot holes and things like that, and I'd love to dive into it more and talk about it. But again, I think the cameos are fun. The what's it called? Oh, excuse me, special guest appearances. Is that what they're called? What are they called, Ben?
I honestly, I have to review the tape.
Okay, review the tape. Go back a few seconds.
Appearances, yeah.
Guest appearances,
the sags.
But yeah, no. But let's get it. These are initial thoughts. Let's get into plot holes. Let's get into these moments that may or not worked, did work. Favorite moments, whatever. Like, is there anything else you guys wanted to dive into here?
Well, can I just say that was eloquently put, and just from hearing you talk about it made me want to see it again, which I already do, but also like it more. Because I'll be honest, one guy came up to me after the weekend, and he was like, "Man, that was like the best movie I've seen in the theater in a long time." Now, granted, he doesn't see every movie that comes out in the theater. That comes out like I do. But that gave me pause. I was like, "Oh, well, maybe it's not that good." No, that was eloquently put, and I thought that actually does resonate a lot throughout of that. I think there are like some things that get short served, but it's an incredibly busy movie, and it's like punch after punch after punch after punch, like from
with the
jokes to action and story beats. It dives right into it. So let's dig into it. I want to hear everybody's thoughts.
Ben, you were talking about plot holes and things that that kind of rubbed you the wrong way. I'm curious just to know, like, what keeps coming in your head that you're like, this bothers me a little bit.
Well, it's set up at the beginning that I felt like, and by the end, we kind of forget about it all. And I was like, wait, why did that happen originally? Because remember, Mr. Paradox, I want to call him Dr. Paradox. I don't know why. He does not have a PhD, but Mr. Paradox rips Wade from his timeline, brings him to the TVA.
Yes.
Says, for the purpose of your anchor being died, your anchor being is Logan, your timeline is dying,
right?
And I'm going to speed it up. You get to join the main timeline, because someone above me, deemed you worthy.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Who is the person above them, for one?
Right. Okay, we don't know. Yeah.
We never find out. I assume it has to be Loki, because he's kind of running all of the timelines currently.
Yeah.
But also it's like, because if somebody said, it was like, yeah, but he's kind of lying, and he's like, but then why rip him out anyway? Why not just speed the timeline up and get rid of him? Why? He's running rogue, but he's still listening to his superior somehow. Yeah. And I'm those are a paradox in themselves. You can't be rogue.
He's played his character. He's a paradox to himself.
It's like, the whole plot's a little bit of a paradox. So that was bothering me. I'm like, so they want him to join the main timeline, but they also now need to kill him. I was like, so that part was just like, I don't know what you're trying to achieve here.
Yeah.
Once you get into the character stuff of Wolverine, that's the best part.
That's the best part. Yes, 1000%.
That's when it kicks into gear.
And it makes sense because Deadpool is trying to save his timeline to try and get his anchor beam, which they say you cannot do anyway.
Yeah.
But it's still not going to stop him from trying. And I assume he succeeds in the end, although we're not really sure.
So I think somebody, I forget who made this comment here. It's like 10 minutes ago and I already forgotten. But they were saying, one of you guys were saying like, oh, these are anchor beings who kind of self-sacrifice themselves and then they become like Tony Stark and Logan. And I guess by the end of the movie, both Logan and Wade Wilson pretty much they self-sacrifice themselves. So in that context, do they now become the newly deemed anchor beings because they've self-sacrificed themselves in this heroic fashion in the climax? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, like Wolverine is now...
We don't know what's going to happen with Wolverine, right? Like that's like they left it ambiguously open.
He was just kind of hanging out on their timeline, but he doesn't belong to that timeline.
Right. He doesn't.
So, yeah, I was like, okay, is he just going to be... Is that just them telling us for sure that Hugh Jackman is just here to stay and he's never...
It seems like it's pretty vague about if he's staying or going. There were like...
90 years.
Yeah. He kind of has like a goodbye after they eat the shawarma, and then he's like, but you know what? You should stay for my party a little bit longer. Yeah. People always talk about like him popping up in Secret Wars as well. So really, who knows what's going to happen with that? But
I think by the time we get to Secret Wars, we will have handed off to
Everything.
a new generation of
Yeah.
X-Men, because the
You think
X-Men
so?
will be. I think like they've got the rights back, and they still have done nothing with it. I think more the line to take from this movie is when he's like, "So, will I see you again?" He's like, "Yeah, probably not." And then they kind of wrap it up, and it's like as a part of the family. But like, I mean, I'm not even sure Ryan Reynolds necessarily wants to make another Deadpool film, and like what that would necessarily be.
Yeah.
And because it seems like at the end of the movie they save the Fox timeline in a way,
Right.
and
Right.
keep it just nice and like nostalgic, and it just is there, and you'll always have it. But we're really not going to get back into it. And I think we'll see Deadpool like pop up from time to time.
We got to see Deadpool at Secret Wars or something like that with a Thor scene, because I know we didn't see it here at the end of this movie, but they have to be playing the long game where this is going to pop up later in the Avengers movie, right? Like, this.
Ryan Reynolds today posted a picture of him being like held by Thor, and he's I know why Thor was crying, and I can't not see it, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So he's already tweeting out, hints to whatever that story was. So yeah, I mean, it's all of it. You're like, I don't fucking know what's gonna happen. It's all. Nobody knows. Nobody thought RDJ was coming back. There are no rules.
Yeah,
I'd be willing to bet that both Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds make an appearance in Secret Wars. Or which one's coming first, Secret Wars or Doomsday?
Doomsday's first. Yeah.
Okay. They'll show up in Secret Wars.
They're a year apart, which is
Doomsday and Secret Wars?
Yeah.
Wait, what was the difference between Infinity War and Endgame? Was it 6 months or a year?
It was about a year.
About a year. Okay.
Yeah.
And
remember that took in 2026.
Okay.
Yeah, because we get Fantastic Four next year. And then we get Thunderbolts, and we get what was the other one they showed off?
Captain America.
Oh yes,
Captain America. Yes. Right, that's the next big one that's coming up. Right,
yeah,
the Red Hulk. We're introducing the Red Hulk. Like, we got so much we've already introduced. Can we just take it easy a bit? Like, we just did this.
No, we're Marvel.
Yeah, but yeah, you're bringing up about like the mutants, like X-Men. Like, I think that's like, hopefully we'll consolidate the timelines, and then the next saga is like the mutant. What's it called? What this is, the Infinity Saga, the multiverse. Is that what they're called?
This is a multiverse saga.
Yeah. I hope like it's just like the mutant saga. Yeah,
because that's like they laid out phases 5 and 6, which now seem to be fully off the rails. Like, they didn't even address the timelines.
No,
they just didn't even bring them up, and they're just like, because it's an embarrassing thing to look back and go, so all these things we talked about, no, delete.
Yeah.
It's because, I mean, it's not, I want to bring it up now. I want to be able to see what their initial plan was.
As you bring it up, I like. I think it's funny how they were able to dig into Marvel so much in this movie. Like, the multiverse isn't working, guys. Like, this isn't working. Can we just stop with the whole multiverse situation?
You're joining us at a low point right now.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the whole Disney thing. Like, everybody, when they got the rights to 20th Century Fox, everybody was worried about what they were going to do with this character, and if they were going to be able to stay true to what they've already established, given that it is Disney, and so far Marvel has been a PG-13 max kind of franchise. So I gotta say, it looked good, it sounded good, and it felt good. All the things, like the budget felt good, like like that clean new suit Deadpool was wearing, but like everybody's costumes, like I love that they leaned into the more comic book driven costumes of a lot of characters. The fact that they did in fact lay into Disney and Marvel.
They doubled down for sure here.
They did. Like, they got away with a lot of great jokes, and I'm so glad that they did. And I think it just shows at least some sign of just like self-awareness
That's what I like about is the one thing I'll give to Marvel and everybody. It's like they're very self-aware of their situation. They're willing to kind of take those punches. And anybody who's willing to take those punches, look at She-Hulk. Anyone willing to take those punches, then it's like, okay, I see you're not acting like some sort of like disingenuous person, and because of that, you're able to keep a couple of my, you get little points for that.
And if you can just like use that Disney money to get all the cameos in the world, then so be it. Use that money, and which it definitely felt like, and I mean, granted, a lot of the returning characters, I think, got their dues. I think there are some characters that didn't, which I'd love to get into. Like Luis, I texted you about this, but whenever that main core of characters came in, we first see Elektra.
Elektra,
and the theater was absolutely quiet. And just like you could just like all of a sudden, like for a very loud movie, it just got dead, and then immediately followed up by Blade, and the whole crowd erupted. And to that effect, I kind of feel bad for Jennifer Garner. I thought that even in the action sequence that followed, she didn't really get a moment. And granted, we've seen what she can do, and then when you have Deadpool and Wolverine who only fight with blades too, it gets a little tedious. But like, give her something cool to do. At least she had
that joke about Ben Affleck. They're like, "Oh, we lost Daredevil. I'm sorry."
That was great.
That's okay. She got that dig into Ben Affleck. So.
But it was cool to see her. But then, of course, Blade, and then the big one, I guess, big old Gambit.
There were two times when I went, "Whoa!" and like Blade was one of them, obviously. But like one of the actually was the third one. First was Chris Evans doing the flame on. Like that one took me completely out.
Yeah,
that one was set up so well. And then the Gambit thing was just like I couldn't even believe what my eyes are seeing. Like we were getting this hella comic accurate character. His interpretation of this, like, like the way he was talking was so funny. I just never in my life thought I would ever see that Gambit, and the fact that we got to see him in action doing some cool action moments with those cards, like he was doing, throwing it around. I enjoyed those cameos a lot. Like Blade, Chris Evans, and Gambit.
I know it was it was a project that just kept getting mentioned, never really found any fruition. And, seeing this performance, yes, it was fun. I'm glad they did it. And I'm also glad, again, that they got into the more comic-driven costumes. Yeah. But, man, I'm so glad he didn't get a solo movie. I think watching him do a whole movie, I'm already kind of like on the fence with Channing Tatum, but to see him do a whole movie by himself or like his origin or whatever, I think would have really put me off of it. But seeing him in this context with these characters, and if we saw him in a bigger context with the X-Men in the future, that would be great. But in that brief moment in time where everybody was in the X-Men, they were trying to do an origin story,
right? Yeah.
And they really kept trying to push that Gambit one, and maybe for the right reasons it fell through. But no, it was cool to see, especially in that costume. But I will say that headpiece looks hella uncomfortable. Like he broke his neck, and they were just like, "All right, well, we're just gonna." It's like the Batman effect. It looked like you have to turn this way. But no, it was fun.
Ben, did you get those timeline up of all the movies?
I did. Just briefly, I'll just touch on those cameos again.
Yeah.
I think the cameos. The Chris Evans one is the perfect joke. They set it up early in the film when he sees Captain America. He already has a fondness of it. That he knows who that is. So when he pops up and he's like, then he delivers the like Avengers Assemble line. And then you're followed by Flame On. It's so perfect. And like Deadpool's confused. And it was such the perfect cameo. Like, I'm never gonna appear again as Captain America, but I will definitely come back as Johnny Storm. And then Jennifer Garner, I was like, oh, that's cute. Like it was just she got one movie. She got one movie. What, like almost 2 decades ago. So it's not like it's a recent thing that we have any attachment to. You're like, oh, okay, I see what you're doing. Then they hit you with the Wesley, which is like, whoa, I never thought I'd see that again.
Yeah.
Never.
And then they hit you with the concept of what that Gambit could have been, which I don't think there was any chance that's what that was going to look like. I think they're playing it up for the joke of how ridiculous that character is. Clearly, it is. They didn't ask Channing Tatum to get in superhero shape at all because he is snug in that, and that is the biggest I've ever seen Gambit interpreted. Interpreted. There we go. And I mean, I was a big fan of the Taylor Kitsch. I thought he was pretty good casting back in Wolverine Origins, even though that movie wasn't particularly strong. I thought he looks like Gambit though. The long hair and the kind of slender physique. Channing Tatum, I never bought as the idea of Gambit. I was like, well, that's the why the movie didn't happen. But again, they know how to play those jokes and they play them really strong. Now, aside from that, now I have images. Now, so this comes from 2 years ago when they're on Hall H. Now, Phase 4 was very confusing and didn't really lead to anything. And we also did not get an Avengers film at the end of Phase 4 like we did on Phase 1, where we were originally introduced. So then Phase 5 kicked off with Quantumania, Secret Invasion, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Echo. Did you guys watch Echo?
I ended up seeing Echo, yeah.
And did you like it?
It was okay.
It's okay.
I didn't watch
Loki's.
But...
Yeah, I didn't see it either. Nothing against it, but I just felt like it was at peak Marvel like saturation, so I was falling off by that point.
Especially, and it was like during Christmas,
Invasion.
And so everybody was like busy with Christmas, and it was just you're right,
right. And then we get Loki season 2, the Marvels, and that's halfway through Phase 5 according to their timeline, and then everything else after that gets shuffled to all hell. Then we were meant to get a Blade last year, November 3rd of last year, followed up by Ironheart also sometime last year, which we didn't get. Agatha was meant to be the winter of 23-24. Daredevil was meant to be in the spring. New World Order, Captain America was meant to be in May of this year, and then Thunderbolts was meant to be July of this year. So all of those we have yet to get. Blade, we don't know when's coming. Ironheart, I think, went into production. I think that's done. Just waiting to come out.
Right.
Agatha's also waiting to be done. Daredevil's waiting.
Never mind. Sorry.
No, yeah, you're good. There's just like Daredevil is, I know that's finished production. It's been post-production. And so Phase 5 has just been like, all right, that's when they took their hard stopping point.
Yeah.
And went, shit. We need a Deadpool movie instead. And then just canceled everything after the Marvels.
That's crazy. Yeah, because Deadpool wasn't even in that list of originally the Phase 5, right?
Right. And so that's nuts.
I like how Deadpool Wolverine, it has such a strong direction and leadership, and it's so like siloed and isolated off that they can just really create a movie almost like they used to a long time ago. Like when Iron Man came out, like they were just like an island to themselves, creating something, putting their whole heart in. And maybe that was a strength of it, was that they were able to just like, okay, let's lean on you guys, you do your thing. But yeah, that's wild how much everything has shifted.
Because, and then they did announce some of their Phase 6 where they kept other stuff a mystery, which were laid out as Fantastic Four. We were meant to get that in November of this year. Jeez, so many things. Yeah. And then, but the Avengers release dates have stayed relatively strong, except Avengers, the Kang Dynasty is dead, and now is Avengers Doomsday. That was scheduled for May 2025. And then we're meant to get Secret Wars November of 2025, which is now.
Right.
Yeah, so now I think it's 2026, 2027, which is it's what needs to happen. We need to push these further down the road. I don't need 1 million Marvel projects a year.
Yeah.
Nobody does.
At least they're stopping with the shows, right?
I think so. I think they're
down.
way back. Aside from the things they've already shot, I don't think there's any current plan to know of any shows.
I know they're going to do, obviously, new X-Men animated. They're going to have another What If. They're going to do Ironheart I've already seen behind the scenes of Ironheart. Agatha's coming out this year. And maybe the Vision show, but we don't know. And then like Armor Wars, what's going to happen with Armor Wars? We don't know.
Here's the thing. I mean, for so many of these characters, it's been so long since we've seen any of them on screen. Don't forget fucking Moon Knight. It's just like, who cares anymore? You know, they really did cram so many in. So like anybody who goes into Secret Wars, like only half of the audience is going to know who every single character is.
It's like too late for Ironheart already, I feel like.
Yeah,
by the time we get her, the whole universe is going to be reset, and we're just going to be like, let's move on, you know?
Yeah, like, let me put it to you, like, name the Avengers from the original Infinity Saga. Captain America, Thor, Iron Man, Hulk. Then you include Scarlet Witch, Hawkeye. They were the Avengers, the first
Black
Avengers
Widow.
film. Yeah, Black Widow and Hawkeye. Now, name the Avengers, any Avengers of the current phase.
We don't know.
And we're halfway through phase 5 and we don't know who they are. I mean, really?
Okay, if I had to, it'd be like, obviously, I guess we have to have a Cap. So the new Captain America. We would have to have Doctor Strange, right?
Okay. Yeah, sure.
I'm guessing Ant-Man has to be in there somehow, right? I don't know.
Somehow.
Who else is there now? I don't know. Who else? I feel like I'm missing somebody.
We're missing a shit ton. We had so many projects.
Thor could be. We forgot Thor.
Thor is still,
thousands of years.
Still technically, yeah.
Is there? But these are all men. Are there any women Avengers? Valkyrie? I don't know.
What's her name?
Black Panther.
Yeah, well, Black Panther. Right. That's not who I was thinking of, but that's a good shout.
Yeah.
Who we don't even know is coming back in that capacity, right? I feel like they left that open-ended too.
Mm-hmm.
Or there's like a new king of Wakanda anyway. But no, I keep saying it in Russian in my head, but it's not. It's Hawkeye's.
Yelena, right?
No, but that's the Russian one. But who's Hawkeye's protege?
Well, yeah. Then you have the Young Avengers, right? You have what's her name?
I felt like they were,
I guess they don't count. Maybe.
Yeah. You have Captain Marvel, Miss Marvel.
Oh, Captain Marvel
Bishop.
too. I forgot about
Kate
Kate
Bishop.
Okay.
Kate Bishop.
That's what I kept saying in my
Photon and...
Right.
I mean, but again, the whole exercise of trying to figure out, like, who exactly were the event, that's an issue. Like, we're still trying to figure it out. Like, who from the Eternals still is alive and exists and anyone is being brought back?
All of them.
Every single one.
Yeah, apart from Icarus, who obviously flew into the sun.
So cliche.
So cliche.
On brand. Very on brand.
Are there any quotes that stuck out to you that when you watched it?
Deadpool. I want to say one because shout out to Miguel. He and I talked about this earlier, and knowing he wasn't going to be a part of it, I had to text him about it finally. But you, Benny, you might not know this, but you guys know I've been kind of longing to get myself a Honda Odyssey, and to see it used in such an elegant way in this film. First off, as like the butt of a joke, and then later on to host a pretty awesome action scene.
Yeah.
And then for it to end with Ryan Reynolds going like, Honda Odyssey does fuck. And that is what I've been hanging on for the Honda Odyssey. So when I was watching that, I was like, Miguel! Because he told me his co-worker said that about Honda Odysseys. And I guess that's just the thing about Honda Odysseys, is that they fuck. And so anyway, that was just like a great moment. Like, such a weird reference, but like made this movie all the more joyous for me. Just like the fact that we were talking about Honda Odysseys. But
he lands on the Kia and he's like, "Oh, that's no fucking Honda Odyssey," because it like breaks underneath him.
I forgot about that. Yeah, good shout.
Yeah.
Well, no, we're not. We're talking about lines. We're not talking about moments. Go ahead.
We can talk about moments. I mean, we could do whatever we want, baby. This is our podcast.
There's a lot. The opening credits to Bye Bye Bye.
Yes, I was doing the dance. I mean, maybe Ben didn't see me, but I was just like, bye, bye, bye. Like, I was doing it in my seat because I knew it from when they performed in SNL, and I was like kind of trying to learn it myself. I was like, I know what the moves are, you know. So
That's awesome. And then the payoff later when he's got the claws, and then it gets stuck in that one guy's ass, and then the other guy's neck, maybe? I don't know.
No, his dick. It's his ass and his dick.
Yeah.
His
ass and his dick. And I was just dying, laughing.
They're
Within reason.
They had this line, I wrote it down. You sick fuck. Logan was a hero. He's the only thing worth of shit to come out of Canada. And then he gets his blades, stabs him in the mouth, and he says, "Get my country's name out of your fucking mouth."
That's awesome.
Such a good time, yeah.
I mean, we got to talk about it, man. The other like big eruption in the theater is the final Deadpool fight, and Wolverine pulls on the mask.
Oh yes, yeah.
I mean, I completely forgot that was even maybe a possibility. But I mean, for watching X-Men movies over the last 20 years, and then being like my first superhero movie kind of thing, to see that payoff.
It only took 20 fucking years.
Yeah, it took, but you know what? Thank God it was Hugh Jackman who wore it. You know what I mean? And you know, seeing them in practice, do they look good? I don't know, but in the moment, it was just so perfect. What a perfect playoff, and totally unexpected too. Like I didn't see it coming at all.
I feel like they time everything really well, from the cameos to the way that they play out to like even that mask at the very end. Like it at a high point, they're able to kind of ride in our emotions a lot, you know.
And it's funny too. I was thinking about this because one of the critiques I was going to have, that initial fight that they have in the let's say the 20th Century Fox
Void Land thing?
Void, yeah. I felt that was like a little underwhelming, a little, you know, slashy, but nothing wonderful. And then the Odyssey fight came, and that was wonderful.
Yeah.
So it kind of like built its way up, but yeah, that last one, just joke after joke after joke. It was just perfectly set up. I don't know if that was where I was initially.
They had a Stan. I noticed on the internet like a Stan Lee. Like he was. Remember when they go through the bus at the end when they're fighting all those Deadpools?
Yeah.
As they're going through the bus, at the very bottom of the bus and the banner, it has Stan Lee, like your friendly neighborhood Stan or something like that.
Oh.
And he's like there, and that was like a fun cameo moment for him. Yeah, there's so many good lines in this movie.
I mean,
I'm not gonna say them all.
I think one of the best ones is when he's told that they want him to. He's told that Paradox wants him to join the timeline, and he goes full fourth wall break and just goes straight in. And he's like, "Suck it, Fox," and headbutts the camera. Like, it's so good. I'm going to do it.
I love that.
This comes back.
He's like, okay, I'm a 1 week on, 1 week off kind of guy. It's what they do at Denmark. You'll never see a Danish flag on the moon, but god damn it, they're happy. You know, these fucking lines, they're so good. I love the relationship that he had with the TVA guy. Because what was he talking about? Like first off, he says, FYI, your tailor's a predator, but I love it. And then he goes off on his costume. And then Matthew Macfadyen's like, yes, your costume is nice. And he's like, nice? Your guy here is ready to throw it all away from me. And then it's a TVA guy. He starts calling somebody on the phone. He's like, who are you calling? Your wife? HR. Is your wife in HR? You know? I love it. They had like these sound bites when he was about to fall on him. There's so many great moments. I thought you were retired. Retarded. You know, that line that he has in play.
That's so awkward too.
I don't know he's like, are you guys ready to fight? And then Gambit's like, I don't know my daddy, but I'm sure shit. Wait, what does he say? Oh, I don't know my daddy, but I'm sure I shot out of my shit. Okay, I fucked it up.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
He says, I don't know my daddy, but I'm sure I shot out of his dick ready, is what he says. I don't know my daddy, but I'm sure I shot out of his dick ready. You know, okay. Anyway, there's so many good things about this movie. Check it out again. I might watch it again. I might watch it in 4DX. Who knows? I actually saw. It might be a good time.
I was also I'm glad it did turn into like have this like love letter to Fox at the end of it.
Yes.
for all its sincerity, lack thereof, just tearing all the studios apart. Like at the end there was a really nice, genuine touch to it. That was closure for a lot of people, like you said. Like that's the thing, is like going into this with people's expectations of Marvel so muddled. Even my expectations for this movie were low, frankly. But it was like kind of cathartic to first off laugh about it, joke about it, poke fun about it. It put a voice to all of our quibbles about the Marvel universe and previous movies that didn't land, and it embraced that and made us feel justified for it, and then kind of gave you just a good old like nerdy punch in the air, and then like a nice warm hug at the end of it. Like we all grew up with these characters, as we were saying. Like X-Men was a big movie for me, and maybe not so Elektra, but I know everybody loves Blade. I'm not trying to deliberately knock on Elektra, but it is what it is. But Fantastic Four, the original series, some people look back on that fondly too, and so it was nice to have that warm embrace, and also just to see how far Hugh Jackman, of course, has come.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I'm glad that they did that. That was such a nice, elegant touch that they didn't have to do at all. It could have just been the mid-credit scene, which was also great. And I wish you had written down that quote, because I want that Chris Evans run.
Oh, the long quote that he says.
Yeah, man, that was epic, but delivered so great. Like Chris Evans is enjoying playing a dick outside of the Marvel universe. Like
he's done it before. He did it in Scott Pilgrim. Remember when he plays like that dick skateboarder?
The Knives Out too. Yes, he's a bad guy. And then we were talking about it, the Gray Man too.
Yeah.
So
now he's going to be in that Christmas movie. What was it? Red Code or something?
The Red One or whatever.
Red One, where he's like, oh man, it's going to be real.
I think he's a hacker. It doesn't matter. He's a hacker. The Rock's an elf, and none of it makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? One thing we didn't talk about was Cassandra Nova. She was the other villain in this movie. I haven't seen her anything else, but
she played. So that's Emma Corrin, and she played Princess Diana in the 3rd season of The Crown.
Oh, okay.
Or the 4th season. No. Yeah, 4th season, I think. Anyway, she was very good in that role. And anyway, I thought she was, again, not a character I'm familiar with. I thought it was an interesting, but to what you were saying earlier, is just like, this movie wasn't about the plot. You know what I mean? It did, in that regard, it did feel like a Deadpool movie, but in a good way, I guess, because, I mean, yes, they were dealing with the TVA and stuff like that. But I was curious about her role in the X-Men, and wouldn't be opposed to seeing her in that maybe role later on. I don't know, but
she's very powerful and scary. Like the way
it was
she
pretty
was able to
intimidating.
just snatch that skin off of Johnny Storm and go through people's heads. Like that was very creepy and very effective.
Like the polar opposite of Charles Xavier. Yeah, I want that. Yeah, that could be really interesting. And Emma Corrin against James McAvoy maybe would be a lot of fun. But with that said, I did feel like that whole kind of, I just knew everything was inconsequential, either because it was a Deadpool movie or at these days because it was a Marvel movie. Like you don't really know, especially like not knowing what's going on with Wolverine. But yeah, I thought she was good. The threat seemed like obvious. Ultimately, is just like that was another great line that Deadpool gave. It was like, "Oh, what in the MacGuffin?" Or something like that. Yeah. As like, what in the great MacGuffin is that?
Yeah.
So, I mean, they call it out. So I guess there's no point in tearing it apart. But I liked her.
Yeah.
Casting.
Yeah, I liked her too. I think it was the first time I saw her, and she. I'm interested to see more what she does. She was a scary threat. I definitely felt like they established that early on, and I hope they bring somewhat of her back. It would be interesting to see what kind of damage she could do. Ben, you like? Did you interview her too as well, or did you? Okay.
Yeah. She was. No, she was very nice. She definitely had the vibe. I don't want to get like too inside baseball, but when you speak to talent, especially when they are starting a franchise like this, they are never quite sure what they can and can't say. Sometimes they get too comfortable, like Tom Holland, and will spurt out spoilers all over the place. But she was definitely like buttoned up. So she seemed nice enough. I thought her character was good. Yeah, I think probably underserved because again that wasn't the point. I think she was more there as a plot device than a character. I think she did a good job of that role, and it is very creepy, and I like the visualizations of all that. But one character we haven't brought up is Goodpool.
Nice Pool.
Nice Pool. I was like, which was Nice Pool? Which I thought was such a fun little
sorry, as he comes running with his accent. Yeah.
His death was hysterical. And then the fact later is like, I guess he really was the only one who couldn't regenerate after killing all the other Deadpools. So how long does it take
to regenerate? Regenerate? He's like, oh no.
Man. And then Wolverine walking across the street with the dog, and none of them want to shoot. Yeah. That was a great little payoff. But yeah, man, Nice Pool was great.
He had this line where he's like, "Oh, the gold guns, can I take it?" He's like, off of my dead body. And then as the movie goes on, he obviously dies, and then he takes the guns from it.
Did you catch the Easter egg voices by some of the Deadpool characters?
Oh,
I got one, or at least I think I know one. And maybe it's the most obvious. The cowboy one, is that Matthew McConaughey?
Yeah, that's why I thought I was like, because I picked up on it on the second time I saw it, and I was like, oh shit! And then you wait for the credits, and it comes up. But then obviously, Lady Pool.
Blake Lively.
It's Blake Lively, yeah. Which is just like, everyone was like, who is Lady Pool? And I was like, yeah, it's Blake Lively.
Yeah. I mean, save a buck here,
Well, it's funny, you was tying Lady Pool and Nice Pool. He was talking about Lady Pool in the movie. He's like, oh, you're going to love Lady Pool. She just had a baby. She looks great. And then, because Blake Lively did have a baby recently. And so I think it's just funny, the comment. But who else?
She probably does look great.
Who else? Who else would do the other voices? Because I had no idea.
I was told. So you guys noticed there was a Welsh pool?
Yes, I was thinking about you, Ed.
Yeah, I thought that was so cool. Number one, and I bet Wales is ecstatic over that. Like, what a cool, nice gesture because of the whole Wrexham thing. But I was told, I don't know if it's true, that the person dressed up in there was actually one of the players from Wrexham.
Oh, that's
I think they did some. Yeah, I think they did some behind the scenes with him. I don't know that team or I haven't seen Wrexham, so I don't know. But like a quick Google of Welsh Deadpool,
that'll do it. Yeah.
It was Wrexham AFC striker Paul Mullen.
Oh yeah, their star player. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Ed watches that show, so he can enjoy that.
Yeah. I am at one with that show, but yeah, that's that was really cool. So what? Were there others?
I don't know. I know that again, another of the names from Wrexham, Rob McElhenney. Oh Jesus!
Oh, McElhenney.
McElhenney.
It's always the guy, right?
Yeah. So he played some role in it, and I don't think we've got confirmation on what that was. My guess is, I think it was a TVA.
Okay.
Soldier, and I think it's the one. He says when they meet him at the door, and he says, I can't see your eyes, but I can feel them. I think it's that one. He's just standing there quietly. Is my guess, but we don't know. But he does play a secret role, very much like how there's a few celebrities in Stormtrooper costumes, like in The Force Awakens.
Like Daniel Craig. It was Daniel Craig, right? He was one of the yeah.
Which is just so much fun. The hiding big name celebrities in costume is so fun.
It's my favorite part. Yeah.
Because then you get, it's always like a nice vibe where you feel the enjoyment coming from the screen. Like people weren't having it, or you hear these things about people struggling on set or whatever like that. It's nice to have that kind of familial feeling resonate from the screen. It always just like adds so many more layers to it. Especially when you can just have fun with it, like Deadpool too. It's like, so I'm sure people went on set and just like, yeah, let Ryan Reynolds do his thing and he'll throw you a line or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, very cool.
Well, either way, I know it's been a week since the movie's come out. If you haven't seen it, go check. Well, obviously, we've already spoiled the whole movie for you. You've gone this far. You've seen the movie. No, I don't know what to say, but let us know at the comments or on Instagram if you liked it, I guess. We liked it. If you didn't like it, shut the hell up. Just kidding. Ben, thank you so much. Ben, thank you so much for coming. Where can people find you on social media?
You can find me. I mainly use Instagram. Just find me at Benny Watts on Instagram, and that's where I'll be.
Hell yeah! You go to IGN.com on Instagram. You'll see him pop up there as well.
Yeah, but the content on the IGN is rubbish.
I gotta, Luis, I don't know if you noticed this, and hopefully Benny don't tell his boss or whatever, but through our Punch Drunk Nerd account, I actually, the week leading up to the release, I stopped following IGN because I kept getting no spoilers, but I got the trailer spoilers, and I had been trying very hard to avoid the trailer spoilers, so I took one for the group, and I was like, we're gonna unfollow you. So I need to remember to start following IGN again. But but I was I lashed out at Luis one day, and it wasn't his fault. But I was just like,
it wasn't my fault either.
No, it's none of your fault. Nobody's fault. It was Disney's fault, and it turns out it was X-23's fault, which we didn't even talk about. I felt like if her arrival, sorry, we're going back into it now.
No, it's fine.
But no, if her arrival hadn't been declared, I feel like it would have had more impact in the movie itself, because it felt a little underwhelming when she did show up. Finally,
didn't they say they announced it early because
she wanted to be at the premiere? Yeah, which I could appreciate, but at the same time, how selfish.
It seems like they established her that she might come back. Like, out of anybody, I could see her making some kind of return again.
Yeah, I would love for her to come back. I was so glad to, annoyed that I knew, but so glad that she was coming back, because I loved her in Logan, and I feel like, since they've struggled to find someone to take the mantle from Hugh Jackman, why not go that direction? They've already established her, and she's ferocious. I love her.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. Anyway, I digress.
Follow Dafne King at Dafne King on Instagram. That may not be correct, but you can find her. Ben, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ben.
Guys.
Well, we got to have you on again.
Please, I'll come back every week. Am I a regular?
You're a regular now. Yeah, Miguel won't be here next week. He could just take his spot.
Probably getting his teeth cleaned again or some shit.
Yeah.
No, Benny, it was nice to get your input from Comic-Con. I was excited to hear from you guys about all of that, because just seeing it secondhand, I mean, so much news coming out, which we'll get into. But so thank you for sharing your experience.
Of course, anytime.
Yeah. That exclusive IGN input.
That's right, baby.
Oh, enough, Luis. Enough.
All right. See you, Ben.
Bye.
Before we move on, Ed, I forgot to talk about the bucket. I told you I got one of these buckets.
Oh my god, there it is.
There's the bucket. Look, he's got a little tongue right here too. It's a little rough, but it's nice. It's still got some popcorn in there. Can you believe it?
I was seeing that. Yeah. How old is that popcorn now?
I don't know. But still good. It's AMC. On the side, it says, designed by Deadpool. And then on the bottom, in parentheses, it says, can also be used for popcorn.
That's awesome.
This is like the, what's it called? The Dune popcorn. Not only in style, but the top can be taken apart.
Removed.
Yeah.
What color is it on the inside? Silver? Black?
Ooh, that's a good question. Let me pop it out. I don't want to break it.
Dune was a glorious gold, as I recall.
The Dune one looked really nice inside. This one is just a classic silver, nothing.
All right.
But
that's respectable.
It's respectable. So, but this is
So let me clarify that. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, you could just actually wear that around on Halloween.
Okay, go ahead.
But yeah, so that is a part of your AMC stubs, right?
Yes.
You get that for free if you request it.
No, you have to pay extra for this.
Okay.
I got it for free because I went to the screening, so they gave everybody one of these.
Oh,
but
well, that's cool.
Yeah, you have to pay. You'd have to pay like, I don't know, 30, 25, 40, $30 or something like that.
Okay, well, that makes me feel a little bit better. I went to see Deadpool, and I did get myself a beer, because wanted a laugh. And they had a special Deadpool cup that you could get, but you had to buy the cup on top of the drink that you were purchasing.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So I think she said it was $20, and then the beer would have been like 10, so $30 total. But I was just definitely, is it $20 for unlimited members too? And she was like, yeah. I was like, okay, cool.
Okay.
I don't want it, so I didn't get it.
But did it even look cool, or was it like, well, if it's cheap, I'll get it, but if it's like,
it was
not
more
worth
of
it.
like, yeah, I can't even remember it now. I'm pretty sure it was just like Deadpool's head.
Okay.
With like the circular, like you could have fit like a beer cup in it, maybe it played as a koozie or a holder. Yeah, I thought, if it was cheap and easy, sure.
Yeah.
I wasn't committed to the idea. And that was before I saw the movie, so if I had hated it and got it,
you would have hated having it. It's like,
I would have been so mad. Yeah, god damn it.
I also wanted to bring this up. In the first Deadpool, when that first movie came out, they gave at AMC, they gave away these look at these little things.
Oh, little figures?
Yeah, it was little figures. I didn't even know I was going to get this figure. It's getting too bright. That's cool. This is reminiscent of when he's on the bridge.
Yeah.
Remember that very first scene?
Deadpool 1, yeah.
Deadpool 1. And I love this little miniature guy that I have. I've had, before I started doing little collectibles, I don't collect a lot of things. But this guy's been with me forever, and I appreciate him, and I love him. So he's staying with me on my desk right now. Okay, so we talked about Deadpool. It made a shit ton of money, and we got to see how much money it made in comparison with our summer movie wager. Obviously, we are in a bet. We're all trying to see which movie made the most money amongst the three of us. So, Ed, can you give us the summer movie wager update?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's start off with Deadpool and Wolverine.
Perfect.
You and I knew this movie was going to be high this summer.
Yeah.
Now, is it going to get to Inside Out numbers? I don't know.
I'm scared.
I'm a little scared too, but man, did it come in swinging.
Yeah.
It's so far the highest opening this year.
I think it was the highest rated R opening or something like that too, wasn't it?
Highest rated R opening, and then the highest opening of any movie so far this year. So
crazy.
Deadpool and Wolverine opened to the sound of 205 million.
Damn.
I think it was what?
Furiosa wished.
I know. God bless it. Like, share a little. I think it was by the following Tuesday, it had already crossed 500 million worldwide.
Jeez.
And it's currently domestically sitting at $235 million.
Okay.
Which puts it comfortably right now, and I think it'll definitely overtake Despicable Me 4 at this point.
Yeah.
But it is comfortably at number 3.
Okay.
So let's go down the list. Should we go lowest to highest, or
let's go low to high? I like it.
All right. So right smack dab at the bottom, we've got Maxine with 14.6. Actually, I'm not going to do the numbers, but that's where we are.
Okay.
That movie did not make money. It made a lot less than I thought.
Yeah.
Fly Me to the Moon is currently higher with 19.
Wait. Fly Me to the Moon is number 9?
No, we're at number 16. Sorry, I'm counting from 17.
Oh, okay, my bad.
I'm doing the whole list. Do you want to just do the top 10? I could do that.
No. I'm actually very interested in this situation. Okay, go.
All right, so Fly Me to the Moon, which just opened this weekend. The Bike Riders.
Okay.
At 14, we have a Horizon, an American Saga Part 1. 13, The Strangers, Chapter 1. Longlegs, doing pretty well, is at number 12 with 59.7.
Wow. How much?
59.7 million.
59?
Yeah.
That's really good. Okay.
It's less than 10 million away from Furiosa, let me tell you. Speaking of, at number 11 is Furiosa. Going into our top 10 now, the Garfield movie.
Okay.
The Fall Guy. which those two are $1 million apart. That's how.
And I cannot tell you, I as much as I love Alien, for the sake of this movie wager, I cannot have Garfield be dethroned from the top 10 because that is a pick that I have that none of you have, and so if it gets
but you
kicked
didn't
off,
have Alien.
I have Alien as a dark horse. Did you have Alien in your top 10?
I did.
Fuck, yeah. That's gonna be bad for me.
I don't know. I mean, it remains to be seen if
I think it. Wait, how much does Garfield
and the Fall Guy are both at 90 million, basically. So
that's going to be a very tight race.
It would have to have a really strong opening.
I think it could. I could see in a world where it could take over, but I guess I got to go see Garfield a couple times. Let me help it out.
Yeah, we've also got Borderlands, but I think
that movie I hear is not good for multiple sources.
Yeah, it looks not good. Anyway, so number 9, The Fall Guy. At 8, we have If. 7, A Quiet Place, Day 1.
Okay, yeah.
6, Twisters, which is currently sitting at 159.
Hey, I think I had it at number 5 or something. That was pretty good.
I had it at number 6, so I would love it to just stay.
Yeah.
Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes at number 5. Bad Boys Ride or Die at number 4.
Idiot for not having that on my list.
Deadpool and Wolverine at number 3. Despicable Me 4 is currently at 293.9 million. And then Inside Out 2 comfortably with 615 million. Man. 650. So, like, I mean, Deadpool
that is crazy.
Wolverine,
that's a crazy amount of money.
Deadpool and Wolverine still has to basically triple what it's made domestically.
Yeah.
To catch up. And with that said, this weekend, it doesn't have any competition really coming into theaters. So it's got time to breathe and gain another. I mean, Inside Out 2 did what, 80 million its second week? So
wow.
It's
it always feels like impossible for a movie to do so well in the second week. Yeah. 80 million on the second week is great. I hope that it gets at least 100.
Yeah. To like have a strong projection going forward, it needs to be at least half, right?
Yeah.
So
fuck,
but
dude.
anyway, it's still doing pretty good, and it's only bumped up $30 million in the last 3 days since.
You're right. And it will. It's got to beat. It's got to at least hit number 2. You know,
and it's definitely one of those movies that is getting people back for repeated viewings.
Yeah,
like me and my coworkers, we were all talking about going to see it last night. It just kind of fell through. But I think people are enjoying it so much that they could. So, and I think, uniquely, weirdly about Deadpool, you don't really have to see 1 or 2 to get it.
Yeah, I agree.
I think, yes, there are a lot of Marvel-heavy jokes, obviously, but there's something...
You can go into it without knowing anything, and it's got the comedy.
If you hate comic book movies, this might be the perfect movie for you.
Yeah.
Because it just takes the piss so much.
Yes.
And you get the iconography with it, too. So, yeah, I mean... Yeah, I think it's going to do very strong. 600 million, I don't know.
That's yeah.
But I think 100% it's going to make it to number 2.
It's this mix of like, I can't believe how well Inside Out 2 did, and I also hope that Deadpool does better. It's like they both were on the separate side of the camp, so that I hopefully they can.
And you want Inside Out 2 to do well. Like it's one of those movies that you can't even argue with. It's just like, it's a really good movie.
It's a good movie, yeah.
So,
and it makes sense. I mean, Deadpool is a rated R movie, so it's to think that it would be number 1 is also, it was crazy to say that, but
yeah,
it did become the number 1 rated R movie of all time. So maybe not crazy, but also Inside Out 2 just soared, more than I thought it would be.
Well, to its credit, I mean, yes, it's the highest R-rated movie, and I think, what was it? Joker was the highest R-rated movie, at least for a minute. I'm trying to pull it up. Sorry.
Yeah, because it hit a Billy, but I think that was
Joker.
Global.
Yeah, but that movie only made 335 domestic. So obviously they're not the same. Joker is definitely a bit of a downer of a movie.
Yeah.
So it's not going to resonate as much, but I mean, still impressive. But I did want to mention, since we were talking about it, Inside Out 2 officially became the highest grossing animated movie of all time.
Wow.
And it's currently sitting, I guess I'm looking at domestic, but worldwide, it's currently
It's like over
sitting,
$1 billion for sure. Worldwide.
It's that number. It's the 12th highest grossing movie of all time.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
Thank God. Good for them. Good for them.
Yeah, good for them.
All right. Well, yeah. The race is getting tight.
It is.
Here.
I came out this weekend, Luis. I mean, I was feeling a little cocky on Monday, I gotta say.
Yeah. When I listened to last week's podcast, I was like, ooh,
Yeah, last week, but no, with the placement of Bad Boys just right now with Deadpool and where it is, has put me in a pretty sweet spot. So
never again with Bad Boys.
But hey, still a long way to go. A lot of movies to come. So anything could happen. But I'm still feeling confident in your chances.
We got a couple more weeks left of the summer movie wager, except we only have one more week left with House of the Dragon.
Can you believe it?
I can't. I really can. Just let me just take a second and take a step back here. It really feels like the party is just getting started. Almost as much as like last season, it was like, all right, the party's getting started. It even feels like this season's like, all right, the party is getting started. We've advanced a lot, but both camps have been trying to outwit each other. Have both been trying to outplan each other, and I feel like they're finally getting momentum. There's been a lot of failed attempts from both camps. But now there's some leads happening that have happened in this podcast, in this episode. Ed, what are your thoughts on episode 7 of the red?
Okay.
How do you sowing?
Sowing. As in like reaping what you sow.
Reaping what you sow. That makes sense.
So we're looking at a lot of big steps forward for Rhaenyra and Team Black, if you will. Damon might finally leave Harrenhal.
Yeah.
Maybe, but he has found himself an army, and then Rhaenyra takes another crack at trying to find some dragon riders, and this time succeeds. So this episode had me in a bit of a fluster, mostly because we have been, like you said, the season has been moving forward, but also a lot of characters seem stuck in one place, and the frustrations, and I know it's just storytelling, but the swings and misses, specifically on Rhaenyra's part, have been increasingly frustrating, and for me, a lot of what's going on is just like the opposite direction of where I want them to go, I guess, but more so just like, again, in the story. And I'm not one who's comfortable with unpredictability, so like the fact that this shit is happening is filling me with dread for the characters, and it's just one of those things where you're like yelling at the TV screen, what are you doing, for the last 2 or 3 episodes. But yeah, I will say this, like, this season has really done a wonderful job at just displaying the dragons in flight, in action, just standing still, whatever. Like, there are so many wonderful shots that really give like such a scope and scale to the dragons. We have a couple of dragons flying over King's Landing in this episode. Awesome. When you see basically anytime Vhagar takes off, it's kind of pretty intense and intimidating.
He's always bigger than I remember him to be. When he starts flying, I'm like, holy shit, that thing is bigger. Like, she is bigger than I thought.
And then we get to see a lot of Vermithor in this episode, and that's a cool looking dragon. So we have some mixed feelings. I mean, obviously we're excited for the final episode and on the edge of our seat. you know, I guess I'm just in the habit of pulling this pose anytime I'm watching it now. Sarah caught me this week doing it again, and it's either out of frustration or just sheer tension.
Yeah.
But yeah, yes, I'm a little all over the place, really. So we'll see this next episode. I don't know. I really don't know. Anything could happen. And from my conversations with Steven too, it has kind of reaffirmed.
This is great because I want to know what you were talking with Steven about. Steven, if you're not a listener to the podcast, he is kind of our in-house Game of Thrones scholar.
House of the Dragon scholar.
House of the Dragon. He will be next week. I guess that's going to be our featured discussion is House of the Dragon because it's the finale.
Yeah, we should.
Steven hopefully will be back next week. But what did
He's our Grand Maester.
He's our Grand Maester.
Yeah.
You were mentioning things that he was praising you for about predicting or something.
Well, rightly so. I don't know. I don't think so. I think I'm just maybe stating the obvious. I am curious how are your feelings towards the latest episode? Like, where are you at?
I loved this last week's episode. I had I mean, I'm trying to remember everything I've been drinking. I'm sorry. But I had a great time with this episode. What am I trying to say here? I don't remember. I need you to say a few things. I had a good time, right. Just running on vibes. I'll be the Miguel right now.
All right. So one of the biggest things, one of the biggest developments in this episode is that based on the previous episode, Rhaenyra is trying to find more dragon riders.
Yes.
And she tried to use one of her Kingsguard who had like royal bloodline in his blood or whatever. And but that obviously epically failed. And so, but we also know that Adam of Hull, who is the bastard son of Corlys Velaryon.
Let me tell you, that one fucking shot at the very beginning of this episode, I was
two dragons.
I was locked in. That whole standoff, like the Wild West looking thing. I was like, this is cinema. Here I am. And the way that their interaction was, like, thank God this man was such like, I'm just gonna serve you no matter what. Like, it's this whole Superman effect where it's like, thank God Superman was a good person or we all be fucked. Thank God Adam of Hull was also a good person. He was just like, I'm willing to serve you.
Also, we think, I think the good thing about
Are you suspicious of him?
I'm suspicious, increasingly of just like Daemon and Rhaenyra gradually. It's all gray area. There is no good guy or bad guy at this point, it feels like. Though it's obvious.
I do like how Rhaenyra is taking power over Daemon, though, where she's like, "Can people just shut the fuck up about Daemon for a second?"
Yeah, like, no, absolutely. Especially
pulling that away.
Yeah, especially and her relationship with Jace is concerning. But anyway, my whole thing was we get to the scene where we've had this character Hugh Hammer, the bearded blonde guy who along with some other people are supposed bastards of some Targaryen who came into town and slept with a whore. And there's a lot of them. And they all come to these to Thermophor's lair, and basically it's like an audition, and a lot of people get eaten and burned alive, and but Hugh Hall survives, and Thermophor selects him because he stands up to him, and from what I have read, the character is supposed to bear resemblance to the King Jacaerys, I think it is, who originally rode before.
Yes, because he was because I'm gonna act like an idiot here, but Daemon is brothers with the old King Viserys, right?
Yes.
And they had a sister, right?
Yeah.
And that sister is his mother. Right?
No.
So
it's the mother
Adam of Hull. No. Silverwing.
Hugh.
Ulf.
We're talking about Hugh.
Ulf.
Now,
Hugh's mother is not the sister of Daemon.
No, the mother of Daemon and Viserys.
Wait, Hugh's mother is the mother of Daemon and Viserys. So
Yes.
The wife of the old king?
Yes.
So brother of Viserys and Daemon.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And, Steven, text me if you think I'm wrong on that, but I'm fairly certain that's
Sorry.
the lineup. Ulf, I don't know where he stands necessarily. But so with that being said, yeah, Ulf also stumbles upon another dragon, Silverwing, as we later find out, not through the show, mind you.
We've talked about this.
Yeah, this was a dragon that, we were under the impression there were maybe two riderless dragons, not including Sea Smoke, who Adam just took.
Mm-hmm.
So Silverwing was a bit of a surprise, but he's riding her now, and so my immediate reaction to this was not one of joy or celebration. I'm almost in the same boat as Jace, Rhaenyra's son, not in that because they're poor, they shouldn't ride dragons, but more so is Rhaenyra is inviting essentially chaos into her ranks.
Mm-hmm.
She's got Adam, yes, who immediately bent the knee, but Hugh Hammer is a kind of embittered commoner who just lost his daughter to famine in the city because of the silly games that these kings and queens are playing.
Right. Yeah.
And he, has grown up poor, so he has his own vendetta. He has his own agenda. Kind of right from the off, and that kind of poses a threat, especially if he sees power, especially because he now has the largest dragon on Rhaenyra's side, Vermithor. So that's like Jace said. I mean, if any one of them decided that maybe they wanted to be heir to the throne, they now have the power to do so. Now, on top of that, they're also untrained and undisciplined in the way of dragon riding. As we saw with Ulf, who took a joyride over King's Landing on Silverwing.
Now, do you think that was planned or not? Because
I
originally thought it wasn't planned.
And then I thought like he went off on a joyride.
Yeah, and then when Vhagar arrived, like
Rhaenyra was kind of ready.
Yeah. I felt the same way. So I was a little bit mixed on that kind of whole situation.
Yeah, and maybe they'll bring that to light, but it did seem like a weird thing, especially risky because obviously they have the scorpion crossbows that
I was so scared.
I was afraid. I was like, are you kidding me? We're about to lose this beautiful dragon to this idiot. I think Ulf is going to live up to his name. He's going to be a fucking disaster. Because he's unpredictable. He's a drunk. He's unlike Hugh Hammer, who has like a motive, he doesn't. And if he doesn't feel, like at the same table, he's a dragon rider now. So is she going to bestow him with titles? Like, what's going to happen? And if they don't feel justified and more so like tools, then they're going to start, they all have to be, at least Rhaenyra and Daemon have the same goal in mind.
Yeah.
Which is to take the Iron Throne. Whether together or not, I don't know, but the idea is the same. Same with Jace. They're all a family. Like, Jace, even though, he's, getting a little bit more wary of his mother, he's, by all accounts, still committed to her and to winning the war.
Yeah.
But, that's 3-on-3 dragons, and now they have Vermithor. So Rhaenyra was lucky with Adam, but I think these two pose an even bigger threat, and that's what I was talking to Steven about, is just are these guys for real? Are these guys actually big players in the story? Because we've seen these guys throughout this season, they've been hinting at it, but, kind of minimal, kind of you'd think you just shrug it off. At least with Ulf, especially, I didn't think he was actually going to be riding a dragon. That was a surprise, to be sure. Obviously, Hugh had more importance throughout this season.
For some reason, with Hugh, the way that he's being played in the show, and maybe it's just my personal optimism in life, but he seems like a type of person who I can trust. He has a shitty life. He just wants to provide a good life. He wants to have some worth. We were talking about Deadpool earlier about, hey, I want my life to mean something, and I think it's the same situation.
Theme of the week.
I want to mean something for once.
Matter.
I want to matter.
Well,
and like, I don't think he wants the crown. Like, the crown is.
I don't think he wants the crown, but I do think he now has a vendetta against Aegon and Aemond.
So you might. Oh,
because
good point.
Aegon
so you're saying he might go rogue and not be like, well, I'm not going to listen to Rhaenyra. I'm going to go attack this person right now.
Exactly. And also the person, if they are able to defeat Aemond on Vhagar, he becomes the biggest dragon owner.
Yeah.
And what's to say, if he does have a rightful claim to the throne, what's to say he doesn't suddenly get consumed with ambition? I don't know.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Call me a cynic.
I know. We got an optimist versus cynic here.
I know. Well, Westeros has done a number of me in the past. You can't trust anybody. That's the thing. So, and we all know dragons are ultimately untamable in a lot of ways. And we've seen that just with this season alone. Yeah, with Vhagar. So it's going to be interesting. And again, these guys are kind of underqualified dragon riders.
Someone's definitely going to die. Like, there's too many dragons that are being introduced now. Like, I know Mealy's died. R.I.P. I love. But like, there's so many dragons being introduced that they're bound now. Like, we've given war to the dragons, and dragons will die.
So yeah,
as their riders.
We were talking about so that leaves. I'm gonna just do this for our audience.
Yes, go for it.
So I've written down a list currently of active dragons in the show that we're aware of that might be aligned with a character or not. On Team Black, we have Rhaenyra riding Syrax, Daemon riding Caraxes, Jacaerys riding Vermax, and Joffrey, who is the youngest son, who we don't really see, but he does have a dragon called Taraxis.
We haven't seen Joffrey at all, right?
We have glimpses of him.
Is he in
went to
Dragonstone?
the Vale. No, he went to the Vale. Remember, he's got that baby dragon. We saw a glimpse of the baby dragon. Yeah,
but wait, did they not? Did those baby dragons not stay at the Vale, or did Joffrey stay at the Vale with the baby dragon?
I'm not sure about that, actually. Okay. That's a good question. It did seem like they were leaving. I think they're going to Pentos across the sea. They
left, but then she like said, I leave you with these dragons.
Rhaena has disappeared, and I'll come to her in a moment. So, like, outside of the family, we have Adam of Hull, who's riding Sea Smoke. Ulf, who is coined the White, who's riding Silverwing.
The drunk, right.
And then Hugh Hammer, who's riding Vermithor. And then Rhaena, it seems like they're setting her up to ride this sheep stealer wild dragon in the Vale.
Wild dragon who's like burning up a bunch of sheep.
Right, exactly. Right. Okay, and so over on Team Green, Aemond has Vhagar. Aegon has Sunfire. In the books, apparently, Sunfire is still alive, but they've shown us nothing to suggest that Sunfire is still alive. But they're both out of action, obviously. Bless you. And then Helena, as we saw in the sneak preview for this coming episode, she has Dreamfire, and Aemond is calling her to fight alongside him with Dreamfire. But
she ain't gonna do nothing with Dreamfire. Come on, let's be honest.
I'm definitely afraid for Helena, and I love Helena. I say love, I mean, based off nothing. But and then off screen, they've been talking about their other brother, Darren.
Right, the one who's at the Hightower place, right?
Yeah, and apparently he has a dragon called Tessarion, who maybe we saw in the also saw in the preview, kind of the blue-looking dragon.
Right.
So that's another dragon. And then there's one other dragon that I'm aware of called the Cannibal, but I don't know if we're ever going to meet it.
How did you hear about this other dragon called the Cannibal?
Well, I go to like the Game of Thrones wiki.
Oh, okay.
And the Cannibal comes up a lot, but I've seen no mention of it.
Wild card dragon. Okay.
So anyway,
at this point, Team Black is looking pretty stacked.
They're looking pretty good, but like I said, they have 3 very unpredictable players in it.
Yeah.
At least, Damon, God knows what he's about to do. I'm sure Steven knows.
It seems like Damon's going into this. It's like, where is he? Harrenhal? It seems like Harrenhal is almost purifying him in some weird way, where he's being humbled and purified. Where even when he finally got that army of people, because of the young lord with the kid, even the kid humbled him. He was a good listen,
scene too.
I'll follow you. You know what I mean? But I'm the boss, and I'm going to follow tradition. And this motherfucker killed all these people. So you know what? Like, you need justice, and Damon, if you want my men, you're going to have to kill this motherfucker. And so he's kind of being shamed in front of everybody. And this whole idea of like, I'm the king. Corrin said, I'm not. He hopefully, from what it seems like, he's going to start bending the knee to Rhaenyra more and just kind of being like, I don't want the crown. And we'll see. Yours. I don't know.
Yeah, there could be some backstabbing.
Again, my optimism is like Rhaenyra just wins it all.
I admire it.
No more season 4 or 5, just season 3. She wins.
She's done.
I talked about it in the text chain, but like, this is the dance of the bastards. I mean, from Game of Thrones to now, the bastards are really ruling these storylines and how it gives way to human, just like I don't know, what am I trying to say? Human desires, like just raw human like bastards happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you can't contain it. As much as we tried to like say who's ruling what and who's doing who, it doesn't take away the power that these bastards have, from Jon Snow to these people who come in claiming dragons now, or dragons that are claiming them. I think it's interesting that as much as we try to control the kingdoms, in the end, kind of their offspring or their actions are still prevalent, and I think that's interesting.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like this literally is them sowing seeds for their destruction, and that's what I'm afraid of. So it'll be interesting to see. I'll cling on to your optimism as long as I can, but
I'm clinging on to your pessimism, because this is a drama and we have more seasons to go. So I feel like
a whole history of Westeros.
Ulf the White, the drunk, I am worried about, but I also feel like he could easily die in war, like compared to
and
Hugh.
Silverwing is such a beautiful dragon. I hope they don't waste her. And Vermithor, man, I'm ready. I don't think it's going to come down between him and Aemon, but I think that, because they call him the Bronze Fury, so that's going to be interesting too, to see him unleash in this war. So it's going to be nuts, because the dragon fight we had this season was so tense.
It was so good,
tense, so well done, but it left you devastated and feeling like shit at the end. So that's what I'm afraid of.
It's tough because we just saw the best dragon fighter, I think, out of all of them, attacking Vhagar attacking almost Vhagar and
Sunfire.
And Sunfire, so 1-on-2
melees,
And so I can imagine what these other,
she had Rhaenys had experience, where like Daemon has had experience, but we've also learned this season Daemon's a lot of talk. You know, and he might be good with a sword, but it will be interesting to see him in like dragon action if we ever get there. Who knows? And you want to throw out maybe one big prediction for the final episode? You think we're going to see a major death or a major collision?
I'm trying to think of something here. Nothing's coming. I mean, death, right? What's going to happen? They're going to try to attack Vhagar, right? I feel like that's what's going to happen, right? They're going to rally up, moment of surprise, attack Vhagar. Dragons are going to die. And that's going to leave Team Black vulnerable again for some reason.
It always does.
I do feel a little sympathy, and I'm probably going to get a lot of shit for this.
What?
I do feel a little sympathy for Allison.
Yeah. I think definitely. Because the show started with those two girls.
Mm-hmm. The season, yeah.
Their own paths led them apart. But yeah, no, she does have to put up with a lot of shit, whether that's her fault or Viserys' fault. Because Viserys, like, as much as he's like lauded as like a great character, which he was a bad father to the rest of the kids. Like, he loved Rhaenyra, but yeah, that's where it stopped. So, like, it's on him too. But yeah, Alicent gets the brunt of it, unfortunately. Especially in these last couple of episodes where Aemond has taken control. Yeah.
I'll tell you one thing I know it's going to happen next week is that Aemon's going to get the fuck out of town, out of Harrenhal. Like, we got to get him out of there. Like,
Damon.
Yeah. Damon. Yeah, not Aemon.
Yeah, I think there's... I don't know if it's going to happen this season, but I think we'll finally... Maybe we'll get our final face-off with Aemond and Damon that they keep alluding to.
They've set it up. They were like, I'd like the challenge, or whatever he says.
Yeah, it's like the Mountain and the Hound.
Yeah.
You know, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I'm just kind of enjoying the ride for this one. Like the bastard angle, and I'm here for it. I don't know. We'll wait till come back next week when Steven has some
and
nice
we have
insight.
our conclusion of this season. But yeah.
So we were into House of the Dragon. Obviously, we watch it every week, but we're going to go into our next segment. What we're into. Me and Ed both saw Longlegs.
Good.
And
I talked about it very briefly in your absence because you hadn't seen it, but you wanted to, and Miguel hadn't seen it.
Actually, you know what we should do? I'm just thinking about this now.
What?
We should talk about Longlegs last so that we can continue the podcast. And if you want to, it's going to be a spoiler-filled podcast, a spoiler-filled discussion about Longlegs. So let's talk about some other things before we get to Longlegs at the very end of the podcast.
And that's why you're the producer.
Thank you. Another competitive IP is the Lord of the Rings of Power.
Oh, okay.
The season 2 dropped, right?
Yeah. It dropped right next to you, Luis. You were there when it at the place where they dropped it.
I was.
Comic-Con, yeah. The Amazon Prime Rings of Power dropped like a full-length, like 3-minute trailer for their upcoming second season, which I'm already excited about. But it gave us more of a look of what we can expect. And it doesn't disappoint. I left and right, I see like criticisms of the show. I'm afraid to have any guest on who would say that they didn't like the show because it just might be traumatic. But I adored season 1. I actually just rewatched it last week, the entire season, getting ready for this season coming up.
When does the next season come out?
At the end of this month.
Fuck.
This month coming. So
August 29th.
Yeah. Yeah, my bad. So yeah. Anyway, great looking trailer. I mean, I feel like the production value on season 1 was on point, and it looks to be the same coming into this season. Picking up with Galadriel, Elrond, Isildur, Durin, the dwarf. We'll see more of maybe the destruction of Khazad-dûm. There's going to be a battle with orcs. We're going to see Barrow Wights. And yeah, just like it all looks good. I'm excited, and we're going to see more. This is going to be a Sauron-centric season. Like, he's essentially going to be the main character. We're going to see him in a different light and kind of setting up the stage for all the rings of power. We obviously saw the creation of the Elven rings, but now we're going to see the rings made for men, dwarves, and of course the One Ring, which I don't think we're going to see in this season, but we're going to slowly get to it. But yeah, I know I'm the one who kind of raves about this show, but I'm dead excited, and I won't make you guys watch it this time. But,
I'm gonna watch it. I am your partner in crime here. I will watch these episodes with you. I will talk about them with you, and I'm ready to geek out with you about them. So
great, awesome. Well, yeah, I mean that's it. Really, I mean, haven't beyond Deadpool and Wolverine, didn't get to watch a lot this week.
Right. You're watching the whole season of Lord of the Rings: The Rings of Power.
Yeah, I figured I've said enough about it.
Galadriel, is that her name?
Yeah, Galadriel.
Can't wait to see more of her. She's gonna be great.
Yeah.
This was released at Comic-Con. SDCCC is like we like to call it. SDCC. And I went to SDCC. Now, listen, you guys did such a great job of promoting go to our Instagram, check out our Comic-Con, and you might have noticed, there isn't that much being posted on our social media about Comic-Con. I was very busy this year, but also as I was walking around, I did hit a moment where I was like, I feel like I don't really have much to show.
Oh.
I don't know if it's because I've been to Comic-Con, I guess 3 times now. The first time I went was in 2019, then the pandemic happened, and then I went last year and this year. And when I went this year, it felt like a lot of rinse and repeat. So I didn't really have anything to showcase. I don't know if it's because, what am I trying to say? Wait a second. Did I go to? No, wait. I'm looking at my Instagram now. Hold on. Is this my 3rd Comic-Con or my 4th one?
I mean, either way, rub it in our faces.
Sorry. It felt like that. Whoa, hold on. Sorry, my 4th one. 2022. You're right. I felt like I didn't see that much anything new. It felt like a lot of the same places were taking up the same booths and things like that. So I felt like I didn't really have anything to show. I did show a few things in my stories. The coolest thing that I actually witnessed was there was like Adult Swim and wrestling match that happened. I posted that on our socials.
Oh yeah,
and it was like Rick from Rick and Morty. He was wrestling somebody, and that was like super fun to watch. And I don't know if the people in the audience know, I just started getting into wrestling again this year. Yeah. So it was my very first wrestling match. That was very fun to see. But again, I just felt like there wasn't much to showcase this year. Either I was really busy or there wasn't much happening at Comic-Con. Even Hall H, we talked about Hall H earlier.
You were saying that, yeah.
It was so boring. I felt the whole Hall H was so boring, except at the very end when we got those big announcements.
Yeah, but, which seemed, again, like we've talked about how desperate that felt.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's a shame. I mean, I get it. Maybe it is that fatigue. And I mean, some of these studios like Marvel do it to themselves when, they've been announcing the same shit for the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And don't really have anything to show for it because they're tinkering all the time. So it's hard to take much from that. I mean, obviously the Robert Downey Jr. news was big and they left it to the end, but other than that, sorry.
Yeah,
it was pretty tame as far as news. Generally speaking, and I knew the Rings of Power stuff was going on, but as far as like big announcements go, it felt like it was kind of meh.
Yeah, I agree. It was just like we're hearing there's talk about Captain America, Fantastic Four, and Thunderbolts, which we've already
been talking about them for the last
we've already heard about. Yeah, and like, why did they showcase a trailer of Captain America a couple weeks before Comic-Con? They should have waited.
Yeah, just 2 more weeks. Like, give them something to feed on.
Like show something and then release the trailer for everybody to bounce upon. Like, just to kind of hype on it.
And did they show anything for Thunderbolts?
I don't think they did.
I mean, I know the cast were there, but
they're just like, we're here, and then they left. Yeah.
We're having fun, I guess.
I'm excited for Vaneessa Kirby. I'm glad that she's her career has kind of skyrocketed after watching her Mission Impossible. I'm like, this actor's going to do something, and then now she's in Fantastic Four, and it's like, oh, I knew you from Mission Impossible.
Yeah. So. Well, she's also an Oscar-nominated actor.
For what?
From Pieces of a Woman.
What
movie? Netflix movie?
Pieces of a Woman?
Yeah.
Hold on.
And it has Shia LaBeouf.
I don't think that's a movie. What? Shia LaBeouf?
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah, she got a woman. And it has like one of the most intense tracking shots.
What the heck? I've never even heard this movie. Sarah Snook is in this movie. Molly Parker.
Yeah.
Eliza Schlesinger. Benny Safdie. What the fuck is this cast? Okay, hold on. When did that first Mission Impossible with Vaneessa Kirby come out?
2018.
Okay, so she did that movie before she did The Pieces of Me or whatever it is. Pieces of a Woman.
Yeah.
Drama, melodrama. Whoa. I didn't even know this was nominated for. This was during the pandemic. So I
Yeah.
was drunk most of the time. So I didn't even know this was coming out. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, she got nominated, but that was it.
Oh, well, great. Okay, yeah. No, this is I'm happy for her. Great. Okay, do you want to talk Longlegs?
Okay. Yeah, let's do it. Was that
Let's just lock it in. Let's finish it up with Longlegs.
All right.
This is a movie I saw later. People have been raving about it. People have been raving about Maxine. That was for A24. And then Neon, the other independent studio, came in and like, hey, you're talking Maxine. We're talking Longlegs. That movie seems to be obviously doing well and better than Maxine. And out of the two, yes, I did like Longlegs more than Maxine. It was more, I don't know. Yeah, I guess let's talk about our thoughts. I didn't write my thoughts down like I usually do on my little.
That's okay.
notes.
Let's fill it out.
Okay, Ed, you lead this conversation.
Okay, well, it was I didn't have a lot of expectation going into it, other than the buzz circulating around it. People just kept saying, "Oh yeah," and so often these days, every horror movie that comes out, it's like the scariest thing you've seen since The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
But it's. I didn't know much going into it, and that probably was the best way to go into it. The opening few minutes of this movie were absolutely gripping and terrifying. I watched this on a night where I was by myself. Sarah and Lily were out of the house, and I was genuinely a little scared by myself too. But the movie does such a wonderful job at laying and setting up atmosphere and dread. Like from those opening few minutes, the rest of the time I found myself just kind of on the edge of my seat. And it's definitely one of these movies where you are scanning every inch of the frame because you're afraid of what you might see or what you might miss.
Yeah.
And there are those moments where you'll see those things,
like
and you think your mind's fucking with you.
It's like the haunting. The haunting of, was it the Bly Manor or haunting of Hill House?
Hill House.
I think it was. It might have been Bly Manor, the one where you see a bunch of ghosts in the background. Or Hill House. I forget which one. Obviously, yeah. But this is the same situation.
Kind of lingering quietly.
There was a shot when she went back home. Spoilers. Where she went back home and there was like a shot of the devil in the window of the door in the back. Like there are these moments where like the devil is just meandering or shocked that you don't see. I think one of the biggest things, yes, tonally wise, it sets up a very like ominous tone where you just kind of have to lean in and see what's happening. Obviously I knew nothing about it, and I think it sets it up as like a typical detective story, but then it actually begins to have a very supernatural feel to it.
Yeah.
Which I know some people marked that as a negative, but I feel like this is just a new type of horror telling genre where there's a blend of detectiveness and supernatural religiousness. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed, but I think one of my jumping off points is that I like the cinematography of all this, especially how when she was around, the camera always found a way to keep her centered in the middle of the frame. I don't know if you noticed that. But she, every time she was moving, she was in the middle, as if she was in the center of the whole storyline. And I thought that was very, like, I think that's a very difficult thing to do throughout the whole movie. And they found a very creative way of pulling that off.
Yeah. That's interesting. I didn't notice that, but the fact that you're saying it, and like I'm thinking back to certain images, and that does always seem to be the case. That's Sorry, carry on.
No, yeah. I think it was just it was so intentional. And
I liked the cutback, like in flashbacks, they were using like the 8mm or whatever, the smaller kind of like Super 8 video feel to capture the flashbacks. I thought that was really effective. Same with the opening, I guess that's how it was shot.
Yeah.
So that was a nice device that they used throughout.
I think one of the most people talk about like what was the scariest part of the movie. One of the scariest parts for me was when they were in the house when she was in her house and she was getting phone calls and her house has like all these big fucking windows where like anybody could like see what you're doing, and she leaves the door open and she's looking for that person that's in the outside. Then she comes back in, and somebody's in the house. That for some reason that whole scene's really terrifying to me because it's like real life, like that could actually happen in my life where like someone could be in the room. But I did like how she was connected with from the get-go. You realize she's connected or she has some kind of like sixth sense to all of this evilness. And I don't know where it led to, but when we got to the end, when the detective himself was being inflicted or being affected by the evilness of the dolls, I don't know, I thought it was all very, very effective to me. And of course we can't talk about this movie without talking about Nicolas Cage.
100%. I'm glad you mentioned it. I do want to talk about the dolls in a moment.
Let's talk.
But yeah, Nicolas Cage, I thought, it was a good choice not to show him in marketing. I feel like, some horror movies can give away their scariest element too much. Like Alien is a victim of that. You get a little too comfy with the alien, you know what I mean?
A great
But
point.
the less you see, the better. And
the less you know, the better.
Exactly.
A great line from
you're gonna get you're gonna get something interesting from Nick Cage whenever he shows up in a role like this. And the fact that they were being so secretive about it just really added to that kind of dread. And again, that those opening minutes really just capture your imagination because you only get a glimpse of him, and the rest of the time you're like you that image, that kind of raw scary image is kind of like, what did I just see? But you saw it and it's just like burned into your brain, and you're a little scared, like that was fucked up. And but yeah, just wild, like completely unlike anything I've seen him in, for sure.
It reminded me of a little bit of The Witch. Not The Witch, I'm sorry. Oh my god, it's Ari Aster's first movie,
Hereditary.
I thought about Hereditary watching this movie because in Hereditary, it was all kind of pre-planned. Like the witches were kind of orchestrating this whole thing, and the kind of the protagonists weren't really in control. They were kind of play dolls for the whole situation. Like, you're just a part of it. You have no agency. We are going to kind of direct your lives the way we want to. And almost similarly with this one where, she's trying to detect things and she does have a piece. She has her skin in the game. It seems like she really has a hard time of getting on top of the situation because Nicolas Cage's character and her mother's character are really kind of controlling the pieces in the piece board. So she is just kind of at their whim. And the only reason she can crack the case is because she's kind of, her soul or whatever is involved in it, like in that doll, like she has her own doll. Separately from Hereditary, she's able to kind of quasi take control. At the end of the scene, obviously we see that the detective kills his wife. And then we're afraid that the daughter might die as well. And the protagonist tries to destroy the doll, can't destroy the doll. Which I think is because of magic. I think she had enough bullets to do it. And that the doll was preventing it for her to destroy that thing.
That was one thing I wanted to ask you was, what did you think about the mechanics of everything? Did you just accept it as dark magic, devil work at that point?
I think so. I think so, but go ahead.
Okay. Well, the one thing that threw me off a little bit, and I embraced the supernatural element. It added that extra layer of fuckery on screen, especially like with the cloaked black figure with the devil eyes,
like those dolls,
right?
Yeah.
Terrifying. But then they made a point to show that little black ball that they were putting inside the brain, that they didn't know what it was or what was in it or whatever, because they did like that autopsy of one
Right.
too, and they were talking about it, and then came back to it, and then when she blew the head off of it,
Yes.
it looked like there was something in it, like I don't know, like
that's where I was a little confused because so we're talking about the main protagonist character when we finally find out that the mom is participating in some of these murders.
yeah,
The protagonist has their own doll that looks like them when they were a little kid.
right,
And when the quote unquote when the Nicolas Cage character kills himself, she's like, oh, she's free, and the mom takes the opportunity to blow off this doll's head. We see a black smoke coming out, and she passes out. It seemed like that there's some sort of like connection that person has with that doll, almost like their soul is imbued into the doll.
yeah.
And when she blew up that doll's head with the little ball, she was released from it, if that made sense.
Yeah,
like
sure.
her connection with the doll was severed.
Interesting.
That was the only way I interpreted it, but that was like a little bit confusing for me.
Yeah.
And it does start off as a very like detective story, and then it transforms into a supernatural thing. So I could see how that transition could be difficult to make.
Yeah. Well, and I mean they definitely like seep it with that kind of devilish, mystery about it.
Yeah.
Obviously, because we're seeing these things, and the mystery behind all the murders to it too are equally that, they're keeping that mystery alive. It's like what are they doing? Like how are they getting to the father figures to keep doing this and so on. And
it did feel like at the third act they kind of like exposed everything at the very end, which I guess I didn't mind it, but I can understand how that could be critical.
Well,
like for the movie, when they did the movie Us, like that was the
Mhm.
worst version of like, let me expose everything in the third act, an exposition. This one, I guess I was kind of fine, but maybe I was just enjoying the ride enough to give it permission.
I think that is exactly my feelings towards it too. I was like so invested in what was going on, and it was just one of those things that like after the fact it was a little nagging at me. Maybe just like 5 minutes more of exposition to or whatever. I don't know. I accepted it as it was, and the way it ended was pretty gnarly. It was, and every audience member needs some sort of explanation, vindication kind of thing for their time and stuff. So overall, I was just like, I was definitely entertained. I was gripped. I definitely one of the movies I enjoyed most so far this year. I thought it was very effective, and I like a good horror movie, like psychological thriller like this. This is definitely in my ballpark, and I mean, to all extent, it was really good. Maika Monroe, I think is her name, the lead actress. I thought she did a really good job.
Yeah.
She was the lead in It Follows, which I wasn't a big fan of when it came out. Maybe I need to go back and revisit it. But
great soundtrack.
Which one? It Follows?
It Follows, yeah.
Oh, okay. Again, see, I don't remember.
I don't. It was very like reminiscent of the like. It was during the Stranger Things, like when it was at its peak.
Oh yeah,
and so
sure.
it had that like
kind of electric keyboard.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, but yeah, overall I did enjoy it. I was just, and it's really just like that curious sense in me that I just want an answer. It's just like what is behind it? Like if it is like the supernatural, like I'm on board with it. Like I know that was the main setup for this. Is like he's a devil worshipper or whatever you want to call it, and yeah, it had me engaged. It was like a really good.
Yeah, I definitely want to. I remember coming out of it, I wanted to. I was like, okay, I like it. I want to rewatch it. Maybe get a better understanding of it now that I know the scope of what this movie is.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've seen it, so that's why I'm like a little bit shaky about explaining
same. But I'm glad we are talking about it. But yeah, that was one thing that, if anything, just like it held me back from saying like, yeah, this is an awesome horror movie. Because that's also another thing is expectation is, people say throw around masterpiece and greatest of kind of thing.
Right.
And we're hitting that fucking title every year,
It's becoming a marketing ploy at this point where people can just say that it's a masterpiece and all that.
Yeah.
I mean, again, like if I had to compare it with this MX scene, I think it sings the song a lot better and at least contains itself enough to create a nice tone to it. That kind of grips you and pulls you as you watch the movie.
And unique to itself too. It's like it has its own identity.
Exactly. I think that's very well said. Unique to itself in its own way, and in a way that could probably upset certain people upset their expectations. Where they're like, I wanted this instead of that. But I think at least it's doing something different that we may not be seeing now in the horror world, and possibly creating its own little genre of horror where it's infusing like grounded detective work with the supernatural element in this specific way. Yes, we've done that in the past, but I think the way it executes it is very well executed.
Yeah. Well, I did want to like give a shout out to the director, who is the son of Anthony Perkins of Psycho fame.
Oh.
He
Wait, the son?
So the son is Oz Perkins. And he did The Blackcoat's Daughter? Or he wrote that, I guess. But yes, he is the son of Anthony Perkins, who is the bad guy in Psycho.
Whoa. Okay, that's crazy. Because I know this guy from Legally Blonde. You know what I mean? He plays a character in Legally Blonde that gets picked on by all the blonde girls or whatever, by the brunettes. And then like Reese Witherspoon comes in and saves the day and is like, hey, what's up, honey? And like, but now that you say that, I can totally see it now.
I mean, it's kind of a cool like story to have.
It is a cool story.
It's like, yeah, my dad was the guy from Psycho. And obviously he did other things too, but yeah, Psycho is a great one. So yeah, Oz Perkins, maybe a horror director to look out for.
I think so. I think he's definitely trying something out, and I think we should let him cook and see what he brings next. One of those people who kind of like bring him in the same role as Ty West, Jordan Peele,
Yeah. Oh, totally.
See where he kind of brings
Robert
the genre.
Eggers. Yeah.
Robert Eggers. I would say Ari Aster, but he's like really going into comedy world now, isn't he?
It feels like it.
What's his next movie? Isn't his next movie doing something like really funny? Hold on.
With another one with Joaquin Phoenix now.
Ari Aster's next movie. Eddington is described as a Western noir. Okay, maybe it's not a comedy, but whatever. Why did I hear someone say it was a comedy?
But his movies do have that weird sense of humor about them.
Yeah,
like Midsommar is a weirdly funny movie. Beau Was Afraid was fucking hilarious until it got tiresome for me. Anyway.
Yeah, no, that's very well said. Yeah.
But I was ready to say that was like the best comedy of the year, and then it stopped being funny. I was like, okay, I'm exhausted. But yeah. There you go, Longlegs. We talked about it.
We stumbled our way through Longlegs. Let us know what you thought about Longlegs, but we'll dive into it again, maybe at the end of the year. But this has been the podcast this week. Thank you for listening. I know we jumped from Deadpool to Longlegs. We appreciate you. If you're into Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, we're going to be talking about that next week. Season finale of House of the Dragon. We'll bring in our Grand Maester, Steven Escobar. Hopefully Miguel Sanchez will be back with some pearly whites. But until then, it's been me, Luis Gonzalez, and with me's been
Deadpool.
And until next time, if you feel it, chase it.
That's
right.
Nice.